word, pledge allegiance to our flag like we used to.
Hello. Hope you all are doing well today. And here before I get started, so thank you all for joining me today. I just want to talk about the state of the nation for just a bit. This won't be exhaustive, but it will be touching on some things that are great as a tune in, listen in as well. And remember, we're also going live. For those that may not know, we have a YouTube channel as well. So I'm going live on my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to find me at be able to find me there, Dr. Tim Wesley on YouTube. Feel free to go there as well. We're going live on both locations, just in case Facebook decides to shut me down. We'll be live on YouTube at Dr. Tim Wesley, so feel free to follow me there as well. Again, feel free to share. I'm going to just touch on a few things. Hello, Pastor Ronson Hall. I'm glad you joined and glad joining. Yes, sir. Feel free to share. Let people know that I'm on live. Hadn't come on live here in a little while, but it's time. Again, I do want to just let you all know, just in case Facebook shuts me down while I'm going live, I'm live on my YouTube channel, Dr. Tim Wesley, as well. So simultaneously, feel free to go there and join me as I touch on a few things. Just going to allow a couple more people to come on. Share. Tell your friends about what's about to take place. I'm going to give you the raw truth, uncut, about what's taking place. Things you probably don't hear all the time on our media. So feel free again to share. Absolutely. Our nation is in some turmoil right now. And to put it lightly, it's a wreck. And we are responsible to a certain extent because it's taking place on our watch. So we have a responsibility as people are still coming on. Feel free to share. Again, for those that just tuned in, we are going to be going live. We're already live on my YouTube channel, Dr. Tim Wesley. So I do encourage you all to share. I want to touch on a few things. You all see what's taking place, but the story is not being told, what's taking place with our nation. And many may not see what's actually taking place in the undercurrent, what's taking place underlining and what is going on with our nation. So feel free again to share this live video footage. I'm on YouTube at Dr. Tim Wesley, just in case Facebook pulls the plug with their quote unquote community standards. If they say I violate them, which I'm just going to be telling the truth, but they don't seem to like that all the time, especially when it's not something that's convenient for the left, unfortunately. So thank you all again for joining. As we're looking at our nation, I just want to keep it cut and dry. If you are satisfied with what's taking place in America, then that is a problem. If you think that we don't have an issue, that's a problem. America, we're at the forefront of what can easily be a collapse of our nation as we've known it. And it won't just affect us right now. It affects, of course, the future generations. And so we have to get to a point where we understand what's taking place and we understand the gravity of what's taking place, not just in Washington, not just in the great state of Texas, but across the nation. We have a serious issue that's taken place when it comes down to several things. One, when we look at our borders, people don't understand that affects every single individual, every person here. We're at a 21-year high on our border apprehensions, and this is a problem. It's a problem. I've talked about it for the last several years. I'm not just going to be talking about border issues. I'm going to be talking about things that's going to affect every person, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whether you're involved with politics or not. I'll be discussing things that will and are already affecting every single individual in the U.S., in our nation right now. These things are affecting you right now. They're going to affect you even more. Indeed, I see, it will definitely have a worldwide effect, Pastor, It will have a worldwide effect if we get to a point where our nation collapses, especially our economic system. It's going to affect everyone. And so what's taking place, several things are taking place at one time. As I mentioned, we're at a 21-year high with our border apprehensions, 21-year high. And we're in 2021 now. We're several months in, 21-year high. We have more than 1.7 million people that have been apprehended, 192,000 last month. And that's not including 1,000 per day that's getting away. They call them gotaways. And so this is taking place. I've said it several times that this cost on average $365 million per day illegal immigration. That number, I guarantee it's gone up astronomically. That money, when we talk about over 365 million per day, that affects you. It doesn't matter what political leaning you have, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, it doesn't matter. All that matters, if you're a hardworking American, if you're paying taxes, if you're doing everything you can to go out, earn a living for your family, and you turn around and over $365 million per day, that's every day, is being spent on illegal immigrants coming in. If we're seeing those numbers, that 365 million per day, that was from a few years ago. That was older research. Imagine what it is now. We're at a 21-year high. So it's affecting every single person. It's affecting all of us out here, especially if you are a hard-working American. If you believe that when you go to work and you're working 10 hours, 20 hours if you're part-time, 30 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours for some, 60 hours for some. If you're working hard and you believe that your hard-earned income should be wisely spent, because you're charged and tasked with spending it wisely, but our nation is not doing the same. But we've been letting people off the hook. You keep sending the same people to Austin, to our state capital here in Texas. You keep sending the same people to Washington. And if not the same people, the same type of people, the establishment type of people, you won't change, but you won't change your mindset and send the right people to represent you. You keep sending the same type of people doing the same types of things. We're now facing vaccine mandates. We're looking and facing down the idea of the vaccine mandates that's affecting people not only at the federal level, but the state level and the local level. This is an issue. It has to be discussed. I'll just point out one thing and I'll move on from here. When we think about the hospital workers that were on the front lines, think about this for a moment. When COVID first hit and the hospital workers were on the front lines and they didn't have any clue, and not only them, but our first responders as well. They had no clue as to how this was going to affect them. They simply knew people were dying. These nurses, doctors, anesthesiologists, you name it, anyone that's dealing with the hospital industry and our first responders, our fire, our EMS, our police officers, law enforcement of all kinds, they were coming in contact with people with COVID. Now, when we look at the hospital workers alone, just using them for example, thousands of hospital workers have been forced to resign or have been fired because of COVID mandates when it comes down to getting a shot. These are the same people that were on the front lines saving lives while risking their own lives. Yet we turn around and tell them, you either get this shot, which we're trying to tell them, forget about your constitutional rights, forget about that, forget about anything that OSHA said before they became political, forget about that. We need you to do this right now or lose your job. Think about this for a moment. When we look at what's taking place with our shipping crisis, the shipping crisis that we have right now, has it been going on? Yes, it's been gradually taking place, but it's never been like it is now, at least not for decades. What we're seeing right now, this is just unprecedented. We're seeing backlogs of our supply chains. We have backlogs when it comes down to our shipping. We have a lack of truckers in the nation. We have cargo ships that are basically stuck in port. Some can't even get to ports. We're backlogged so much that the nation needs to know, and it needs to be told. We have two ports, Los Angeles and Long Beach, which handle 40% of all U.S. cargo. Think about that for a moment. L.A. and Long Beach handles 40% of all U.S. cargo. And now we have a backlog on the West Coast. This is something that we should have, because we had warning foreseen. Now we're here in 2021. We have people that don't want to work, and I'm going to talk about that. We have given away America. we keep giving away America when it comes down to our finances of the hard working taxpayers. We're giving away America, and it has come back, and it's already starting to bite us. It's already starting to bite us. People do not want to work because they are waiting for the next stimulus check. Many people are waiting for that next stimulus check. They don't want to work because they've been encouraged not to work. They've been enticed and encouraged not to work. They've been shown that you can get more money from the government than you can going to work. So why go to work? That too has an effect on what's taking place when it comes down to people not being available to do the jobs. What's going to take place right now with the shipping crisis? It's all part of an unfortunate circumstance of America's issues that's going to head and lead us towards a collapse if we don't fix it and do something about it immediately. This is already leading to limited supplies when it comes down to things that we use every day. You think you had an issue when it came down to toilet paper, when it came down to basic goods such as water, etc. We're going to have even worse of an issue with the idea that these shipping containers and these cargo containers cannot get shipped across the U.S. So what we're already seeing higher shipping costs as well, and that's going to go beyond just the things that you think you use every day. U.S. exports as well. When it comes down to our exports with agriculture, they're suffering. Why? They're suffering because if you cannot get shipping containers into the interior portions and throughout the U.S., then those shipping containers remain full. And if you have full shipping containers, then you won't have the empty ones you need available to export U.S. agriculture. So that's going to cost us. What's the causes? We see that we have unprecedented surges of imports from Asia. When we hear about America first, people were complaining, America first, America first. And they complained that we're focusing too much on America first. The fact of the matter is, one of the major issues we have now, because we have a surge of imports from Asia, we should have and we should still continue to push the America First agenda. We should push Made in America. We should do all that we can to make sure that we're not worried about an abundance of imports when we're making it here at home. We have a trade imbalance. This has to be discussed and it has to be dealt with. We must develop greater U.S.-China trade policies. Or what we're seeing is only the tip of the iceberg, only the tip of the iceberg when it comes down to the issues we're seeing. Our economy right now, the state of our nation, when it comes down to our economy, the deficit is $3 trillion for fiscal year 2021. Think about this for a moment. The government spent $1.8 trillion more than it's projected to take in for next year. That's a problem. If any of us spent like that, we would be called bankrupt. Our nation is bankrupt. For all intended purposes, we're spending the next several generations' money. Instead of sending people to Washington and saying, I need you to start trying to balance our budget and stop taking us further and further into a deficit, what do? We keep sending the same type people to Washington so that they can spend what we don't have. If we spend what we don't have, we're bankrupt. If America spends what they don't have and what we don't have as a nation, they continue to do it because you continue to vote in and elect the same type people that say what they're going to do, but when they get to Washington, they don't do it. America, this is a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call. I want you to understand that not only is spending out of control, the inflation is out of control as well. We see inflation taking place. Why is this taking place right now? Because as we look, you didn't think that was going to come back to bite us, huh? When we were giving away all this money with all the stimulus packets. You know, America is giving away all this money. Do we need to help our citizens? Yes. There are ways that we can help America. There are ways that we can help the citizens without giving away money that we don't have. There are ways to do it. When we look, and I'll quote to you something from CNN. This is CNN, left-leaning CNN, reported this, that President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan is contributing to elevated inflation. You know what that rescue plan consists of? Stimulus checks. Those stimulus checks that you got, that America was getting, that they sent out to everyone, those stimulus checks that people probably didn't use properly, some may have, many didn't. Guess what? Those stimulus checks, the enhanced unemployment benefits, small business loans, aid to state and local governments, relief for airlines, all those things that was in the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan was a Band-Aid on a more serious issue when it comes down to Americans being able to work and get out and earn a living. What has happened now, those things are now contributing towards the elevated inflation that we're seeing right now. How so, you may ask? We look at the shipping crisis on our West Coast, and we wonder how is this being affected and how did this American Rescue Plan help? Well, I heard it rather, or caused this issue, or contributed towards it. Think about this for a moment. There was a record 4.3 million Americans that quit their jobs in August. Think about this for a moment. We had over 4 million Americans quit their jobs in August alone. You think about that. People are quitting jobs. They're quitting jobs. Why? Because Americans have been told that if you just stay home, we'll give you all the unemployment and you just continue to hope that we're going to give you an enhanced unemployment benefits and we'll pay you to stay home. We'll give you more money to stay home. When 4.3 million Americans quit jobs in August, what do you think happens when it comes down to people working at the docks? What do you think happens when it comes down to people working when it comes to our shipping containers and our cargo? What do you think happens when it comes down to our truckers, where we have thousands of truckers that we're lacking to move cargo? To move cargo. You can get the cargo on the ships, you can get it to the ports, but how are you going to get it across the U.S. without truckers? People are quitting jobs. Why? Because we figure we're going to go the socialist route and give away America, give away money. We just keep giving Americans money, keep giving it. And you think people are going to continue to want to work? No. 4.3 million quit their jobs in August alone. America, we have a crisis. We have a crisis. Why am I saying this to you all right now? Many will come on and they will go off. But the fact of the matter is, the facts won't change. What's taking place won't change. What's already in motion will continue to be in motion. And it's going to hurt every American. It's going to hurt every citizen. It's going to hurt us all. It's going to hurt us all. When we think about what's taking place, it's going to hurt us all. Right now, when you think about inflation, doesn't matter who you are. I want to quote the New York Post. The New York Post even points out President Biden is now a whopping 944,000 jobs short of what he promised from his last stimulus, and worse, has lost the confidence of the American people to lead the economy. Our economy was doing good under President Trump. Before the COVID thing happened, President Trump and this economy that we have in America was going in the right direction, and it was quite strong. I had a lot of people that would come on my posts. They would bash the president. But our economy was doing well. Our economy was doing well across the board. We were doing quite well, and it was going in the right direction. Minus COVID, our economy would have continued to be strong. The same people that were bashing Trump, even when the economy was strong, I don't hear a peep from many of them saying anything about President Biden. Why is that? If we're going to be fair across the board, we need to be fair. If we see a problem, we call the problem. That's what I was hearing all the time when Trump was president. But now we have a President Biden, and I am hearing crickets. We need to call it like it is. If we have messed up Republicans, we have messed up Republicans. Same thing with Democrats, independents, libertarians. Call it like it is. We have some folks that don't need to be in Washington, and we have some folks that don't need to be in Austin, but we keep sending them there. And we're not calling people to the carpet like this administration that we have right now. It's tanking America. It's tanking America. We're not even a good 2 years in, and we're already seeing a destruction of our nation when it comes down to our economy, when it comes to our open borders, when it comes down to vaccine mandates, when it comes down to our ports and the disasters at these ports. Call it like it is. Doesn't matter what your political leaning may be. When this thing falls and we're heading towards an imminent disaster right about now, when it falls, if it falls on our watch and you hadn't done anything, you're part of the blame. You're part of the problem. We need to stand up and speak up right now, Americans. We need to look and say, we have to send the right people to represent us, to be the voices for we the people. Because if not, what's going to happen to this nation? It's heading in the wrong direction. Once again, for those that's watching, You can follow me on YouTube at Dr. Tim Wesley, just in case Facebook decides to pull this account while I'm going live. I want to point out to you as well, when we think about the inflation, how is it affecting you? Think about this. Forget about your political leaning. How much more are you paying for food? What's the cost of beef since we've had a President Biden? Think about that for a moment. Under this administration, how much more are you paying for your food? Can you argue and say that your food prices hadn't gone up quite a bit? But guess what? You hadn't seen anything yet. As long as those ports are clogged, as long as we have shipping containers that can't come in, as long as we have agriculture that can't go out, as long as we're having this, you're going to continue to see inflation. And we hadn't seen the worst of it yet. You must get people in place that's going to be able to speak and be people of action, not just empty rhetoric. That's from Austin, whatever state you may be in your state capitals, and definitely in Washington, D.C. When it comes down to gas, over the last several months, can you not say that you've seen your gas prices go up astronomical? People can barely afford to drive in California. And California wanted to give everything away. Here in Texas, we're seeing prices go up. And we have all types of oil and gas, all types of oil reserves. But guess what? Because of administrative policies with this particular administration, we can't even explore like we want to and need to. We can't tap into those vast resources like we need to. All of this is taking place right now on our watch. Doesn't matter what your political leaning may be, you're paying more for food. You're paying more for gas. You're paying more for used cars. You're paying more for lumber. The cost of homes right now. You want to be a homeowner, your home costs skyrocketing. You can't even go and get lumber, can't even go and get some plywood and a few boards to build a shed without breaking yourself. Can't even put up a fence around your home now without breaking yourself. Why? Because we're under an administration right now that's causing inflation to go sky high. And it's going to cause definitely a fall that take place within our nation. Doesn't matter, again, your political leaning. We have a problem, even when it comes to shelter. And what are we hearing right about now? We're hearing things such as, oh, it's January 6th, January 6th, January 6th, the insurrection. We hear about January 6th, 2021, and Democrats, unfortunately, won't let it go. But we hear very little about August 26th, 2021. We hear very little about the destructive nature of what took place when it came down to Afghanistan and that premature pullout. We don't hear about those names, which I'll read out to you, of service members that was lost. The media tells you what they want to tell you, but what we should remember, every time someone brings up January 6th, don't let them forget about August 26, 2021, under President Joe Biden's watch. Marine Lance Corporal David Espinoza, 20, dead. Marine Sergeant Nicole G. lost her life. Marine Staff Sergeant Darren Taylor Hoover, 31, gone. Army Staff Sergeant Ron Noss, 23, gone. Marine Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22, gone. Marine Lance Corporal Riley McCullough, 20, gone. Marine Lance Corporal Dylan R. Morello, 20, gone. Marine Lance Corporal Kareem Nicole, gone. Marine Corporal Williams Tyler Page, 23, gone. Marine Sergeant Johanny Rosari, 25, gone. Marine Corporal Herberto Sanchez, 22, gone. Marine Lance Corporal Jared Smith, 20, gone. Navy Hospital Corpsman Max Soviak, 22, gone. All these people died. Service members died August 26, 2021 under President Joe Biden's watch. And what are we hearing? We're hearing silence right about now. People are pointing towards January 6th. Remember those names. Those were American heroes that gave it all for this nation. Yet and still, we see those lives lost. And while those lives of our American service members were lost, America is now supporting lawlessness. This is the nation we're living in now. America is supporting lawlessness. How so, you may ask? We're living in a nation right now where vilifying law enforcement, it's okay, and celebrating criminals is the thing to do. We're now vilifying law enforcement and celebrating criminals. That's where we're at. That's the America we're in here in 2021. We're punishing victims while promoting violence. That's where we're at. We're ignoring our Constitution and supporting lawbreakers with open borders. That's where we're at. Child abuse is taking place on our watch. America now supports child abuse. How so, you may ask? With the continual killing of our children, the unborn. This is what's taking place. Our unborn are being killed still at an astronomical rate. And it's been financed by our government. As we pay any funds or give any funding to places like Planned Parenthood, you as a taxpayer, whether you agree with abortion or not, it's being funded by your funds, by your money. This is what America is supporting. City, state, and federally sanctioned abuse of our children through gender modification. No child should have to be going through any gender modification, and city, state, and federal sanctions allow it to take place. We have to stand up and fight for those children. You and I, we must be the voice for the voiceless. This is where we're at with our nation. We're in a horrible state right now. Parents are being charged for attempting to protect children in schools instead of the officials being charged who are causing the damage. This is where our nation is at right now. You may not even realize it. But right now in our public school systems, in many places across the nation, children, I'm talking children that still don't know much about life, they're being taught adult content, sex acts, activities, etc., to include the LGBTQ lifestyles. All this has been taught to our children in public schools while we're confusing them with the misuses of pronouns he, him, his, she, her, etc., hers. They're being confused. What's taking place in our nation? We see destruction taking place on our watch. I tell you right now, not on my watch. Socialism is taking place. Not on my watch, not with me being silent. You all have been silent too long. If you're not active politically, if you're not praying right now, praying to the one true God, if you're not praying right now, if you're not praying, if you're not speaking and calling on the name of Jesus right about now, we have a problem in this nation. We are a Christian nation. America is a Christian nation. No matter how you want to cut it, look at the history of this nation. We are a Christian nation. And until we turn back to Christ, we're going to continue to see the destruction that we're seeing in our nation, state by state, from border to border, from coast to coast. We're going to continue to see destruction, the destruction of a nation. How does it take place? I'll tell you, I'll give you a list and it's not exhaustive. A covert takeover of the government. The government wants to run every portion of your life. The government wants to run every portion of your life. Think about it right now. The government is going so far, they want to know what you have in your bank account. Of course, they can access whatever they like, but not legally. Right now, they want to get to a point where they can legally know what you have in your bank account. What are you doing? When grandma gives you $600, they're ready to tax that. They're ready to. The government wants to control every portion of your life, what you have in your bank account, what you're putting in your body, who's coming into your home, where you're going, how long you're going, what you're doing, what you're wearing. They want to control every portion of your life. I'll tell you why in just a moment. They want to use, and this is what's happening in our nation. This administration that we're seeing is starting to use softer rhetoric with the goal of seizing more power from the people. Right now, one of the greatest things we have, a couple of things that we have that's great. Number one, we have a Holy Bible. We have Christians that's willing to stand up and be heard, that's willing to stand in the trenches and fight for what's right. Our Constitution. Without our Constitution, as a nation, we'd be destroyed, we'd be done, we'd be doomed. So they want to take the power from we the people. In addition to that, there's intentional deception of the people through blatant lies. How many of you can admit that you've seen blatant lies told to you through the media from your elected officials? They've told you blatant lies, and those lies have come back to hurt you, but not haunt them, because they tell the next lie and the next lie, because they know that you're going to continue to elect them. You're going to continue to push them forward and send them to Washington and to state capitals. We see a gradual implementation of socialist policies. That's what we're seeing taking place. Many of the people that we have collectively elected, I say we as a nation, unfortunately, but I want to point out many of these people claim to support capitalism while implementing socialist principles. They want to control production. They want price control by the government. When you look at what's taking place on the West Coast with our cargo ships, when you look at what's taking place with our supply and our demand issues, when you look at what's taking place with our shipping issues, this is going to cause a problem whereby the government is going to step in and control production and prices. If they get the least chance to do it, they're going to do it. And guess what? They're going to use this cargo issue. They're going to use the shipping problems to try and do this if you don't watch yourselves. Patriots, Americans, Texans, we have to watch what's going on. Social service programs are going to continually be promoted while requiring higher taxes. This is going to, typically what it does is this decelerates the economic growth. You may look and say, well, why do they want a deceleration of economic growth? That's another video for another time. But I will tell you this, how do we get to a point where a nation falls and we get to socialism? How does socialism rise in a nation like America? I'll tell you, if we look at a place like Venezuela, we will see an example of what happens and how a nation falls to socialism. One of the first things that will happen, as we saw in Venezuela, there's a rewriting of the Constitution. The moment that the dictator Chavez won in 1998, he quickly told the Venezuelan Congress in 1999, and I quote, "The Constitution, and with it the ill-fated political system to which it gave birth 40 years ago, has to die. It's going to die, sirs, accept it." Socialist countries, socialist nations, they want your Constitution rewritten because the Constitution is what's providing you some protection. Right now, we see that America is going a backdoor route. If we can look at the Constitution and if we can look at this administration, say, we're going to stretch the Constitution as far as we can. If we can stretch it far enough, we can go ahead and break it at a certain point. That's what's taking place. Subtle but steady attacking of the constitutional freedoms and rights that we have. When it comes down to your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, etc., we see an attack on our constitutional rights. That's one of the first steps that takes place when you have people that are bent on causing socialism to rise. When Chavez succeeded in rewriting the Constitution in Venezuela, he wanted to make sure that he was able to implement new rights, things like free government provided health care, free college for all, social justice. We're hearing those things right now in America. The Constitution passed a popular vote easily with 72% of the vote. So the people, they bought off on it, and it cost Venezuela. A second thing he wanted to do, and we're seeing in America, we're hearing discussion, stack the Supreme Court. If you can stack the Supreme Court, then what takes place? You stack the Supreme Court. This is what Chavez did in Venezuela. Stack the Supreme Court after several Supreme Court rulings went against him. In 2004, he stacked the court by passing a law to add 12 new justices to it. Justices that he got to pick. Think about that. We've heard Democrats speak and say they want to stack the Supreme Court. We've heard that recently. Why? Because if you can stack the Supreme Court with people that are appointed by this administration, then the role and the route to socialism becomes more and more possible. The third thing, seizing privately owned property. We see that right now as a problem. Right now, you can work your life. You can work all of your life and you can buy your property. Places like Texas, the great state of Texas I live in, you can buy that property and never own it because you're continually taxed on something that you probably paid for decades ago. And the moment that you come delinquent on those taxes, the government can come in and seize that property. This is unfair to us as a nation. This is unfair to Texans and unfair to people in America. But the government wants to seize personally owned property. That's what happened in Venezuela. And of course, they want to nationalize private businesses. How do they nationalize private businesses? Right now, you see the government trying to tell private businesses what they can and can't do, should and shouldn't do when it comes down to vaccine mandates. Slowly, the government will try to push a little bit of their power, a little bit at a time, onto private businesses. And then at a certain point, begin to nationalize, seize or take over those private businesses. Media outlets, oil and power companies, mines, farms, banks, factories, grocery stores. This all took place in Venezuela. This all took place when the government takeover takes place. And I'm just simply talking about the state of our nation. If you don't think this is taking place, if you don't think it's taking place, then you're not truly woke, as we hear people saying they're woke. The government takeover of private industries. What is the result? Massive shortages. We're starting to see that right now. We're starting to see massive shortages. Why? Because there's a trickle-down effect and a domino effect of what has taken place in our nation under this administration. Hyperinflation, that's taken place as well, right before our eyes over the last several months. Long lines for basic goods such as food. Get ready for this. We've seen it already. We saw it during the height of COVID, but it's not going to be the height of COVID. It's going to be other things that's going to cause this, that's taking place under this administration, whereby we're going to see long lines for food and water, tissue, etc. Such items are going to be limited on a weekly basis. This was the result of socialism in Venezuela. Basic goods that are often in high demand but short supply. This is what took place with Venezuela, with socialism. Does any of this sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? If it does, it should scare you. It should concern you. It should have you greatly concerned. When we think about this, you don't hear it, but the average Venezuelan lost 24 pounds in their destructive route to socialism. How do we protect ourselves? There are several solutions. And as I close, we have to protect our Constitution. That's our state constitutions if they're solid. And we have to continue to make sure we put protections in there. And we definitely have to protect our U.S. Constitution. If we do not protect our U.S. Constitution, we're doomed. We have to make sure that we're sending the right people to our state capitals, to send the right people to Washington. We have to make sure that we fight to ensure that no one's going to be able to stack our Supreme Court. We have to make sure that we protect private businesses. You may look and say, well, it's not my business, but it's your problem, and that's your business. Because if private businesses go under, if the government is able to shut them down, seize them, overtake them, that's going to cause a problem with you as well. When it comes down to private landowners, we must protect them. We have to protect U.S. farmers. I spoke about this several weeks ago, protecting our U.S. farmers. 86% of U.S. agricultural products are produced on family farms and ranches. We have to keep it that way. We have to keep it that way. Right now, our agriculture can't even be exported because of the problems like it needs to be exported, the problems at our dock, the problems in Los Angeles and Long Beach right now. We have to make sure that we always protect the powers of the people and never yield such powers to the government. The moment that you give power to the government, don't expect them to give it back. We're starting to give more and more of our constitutional rights, privileges, and powers to the government. It may not be blatantly visible to you, but slowly the government is taking that power from the people, and we're allowing it because we fear things that's taking place right now. So we'll allow the government to take this power. Again, don't give them this power and expect them to give it back. We have to stand up as a nation. Our nation is definitely at a crossroad. I'm encouraging and I'm imploring each of you to do what you can do. People have said, well, Dr. Wesley, I'm only one person. You're one person with a voice. You're one person with influence. You're one person that knows people. You're one person that has people in your circle that you can influence and you can impact. You're one person that can register people to vote, get them to the polls. You're one person that can research and share messages that have been researched and share truths to wake people up, to make sure that they're truly woke. You're one person, sure, but you're one person that can make a massive impact if you choose to. You can also choose to remain silent. You can choose to stay out of the game. You can choose to stay on the sideline. But that will not stop you from being affected as well. That will not stop you from seeing the harms that will come to this nation gradually, and some of it will be expeditiously as we move forward over the coming weeks, coming months, and coming years. It's time for us to stand up as a nation. It's time for us to stop sending the same people to represent us that's only representing themselves, that's representing big government, that's representing corporations, but not representing we the people. It's time. Hopefully, you all have had something of a wake-up call with what I've shared with you. You should be alarmed and you should be concerned, but you also should be involved and shouldn't be silent. My name is Dr. Tim Wesley. You can follow me on this YouTube page of mine, Dr. Tim Wesley, on YouTube, here on Facebook at Dr. Tim Wesley. Any other social media outlet, you'll find me at Dr. Tim Wesley. You can also find me at timwesley.com. God bless you. God bless Texas, and God bless the United States of America. God bless you all.